Hi everyone, it's Caroline here, Caroline Murphy-Bennis, and this is my first lecture for the Rainbow Warrior Women's Group, my first teaching. This lecture is the introduction lecture to a course that I'm presenting to you. It's something that I suppose I feel is needed at the moment, and I feel kind of called to do. And I suppose in these times that we're living through at the moment, they are extremely profound times. They are. It's not just what's happening on the surface of the reality that we can see ourselves, but there's a deeper truth that's happening, on the collective level. And it's really interesting to me that 7 years ago, I began a quest of self-discovery myself. And for anybody who doesn't know me, my name is Caroline Murphy-Bennis. My background is I'm from a small village in Wexford in Ireland called Rathmuir. It was, I grew up in a very simple way in the countryside with a very kind of I suppose, a traditional upbringing of its time in the 1970s in Ireland, where everything was, community based, and it was, going to mass on Sunday, and, being involved in, sports in the community, in the local school and whatever. And I loved nature and creativity. That brought me on to studying at third level, studying design. And I did very well at that and moved on and ended up working in branding for 25 years and creating identities for large companies and blue chip companies and brands that would be very well known, both in the UK and Ireland and globally. And I suppose as I matured, my maturity kind of moved me on towards having different possibilities opening up in my life, and I ended up lecturing and running my own business, and where I worked with government agencies. And I suppose I started to move away from the large brands to work with the government agencies around, the environment and around health and well-being. So I suppose then there was a sea change that happened in my life when I was around 40, and I had kind of come to the stage where I had excelled in that world, in that professional world, where I was being given the opportunity to be a director of a new course I had written for Griffith College. And the story kind of started to change from that moment. So I'll explain a little bit more about that as we go forward. But I suppose for anyone who's listening to this, they have logged into the Rainbow Warrior Women's Facebook private group, which these teachings I'm keeping private for this group and for people who are interested in this topic. And I have, a list of questions that I think are important to be answered in this lecture. And, I suppose I'll try to answer them. And if there's any other questions that anyone would like to pose to me or ask me privately, or put in the comments below the post, I'd be absolutely thrilled to answer in the future lectures. Okay, so the first, I suppose, I'll run through the list and then I'll go through them in detail. So, you might ask what qualifies me to lecture on or trying to teach, or on self-love, self-empowerment, or self-discovery. And what does that mean? What is a quest for self-discovery? And what am I talking about when I'm talking about mining for gold? What does that mean? Because these are very symbolic words, and what might that mean? What is this gold that we're looking for? And who is this course for? What type of person would it be suitable for? And why should you be interested in it? Why should it be something that you feel drawn to? And I suppose these are all very relevant questions. And I would say that for myself, in the world, I suppose we would see qualifications as a doorway into becoming, becoming a professional in a certain industry. And that is a traditional, I suppose, way of looking at things. And it is very important because you need to have a knowledge of a certain area, and you need to have a practical experience in that area. So when it comes to empowerment, and when it comes to self-care, self-love, what does that mean? It's very hard to quantify that in the real world, because it comes from an eternal place. It's not something that it's something that you attain yourself, within yourself. So that is something that you attain in the journey of living. And I suppose I'll come back to that sea change that I had in my own life, that I think kind of might explain why I feel I can talk to you about these topics. I had got to the pinnacle of my career, I suppose, where I had, ticked all the boxes. I remember when we were in college, my friends, in our college, we had a small bunch of friends, and we had a fantastic time together. And actually, one of the girls, I think, is one of my friends from college is in this Facebook group, and we had an absolutely amazing time. We had a small group of people in Waterford, and we just loved every minute of it. It was such fun and so creative and so free and such a fun time. And we worked so hard, And I suppose we did a little kind of time capsule thing where we had to decide what would you want to do by the time you're, I think it was 30, and you had to write down what you'd be driving, your relationship and what you'd be doing. And I remember I put down I didn't want to be married. I wanted to be single. I didn't believe in marriage at the time. And that was probably watching my own parents' marriage, maybe. And then I would love to be a lecturer, because I loved the whole environment of the teaching and learning environment, and I was going to drive a Jeep, I think, because it was kind of free and adventurous, and I could see myself, kayaking and, doing all these adventure discovery things. So that's a little taster into, I suppose who I was. I kind of, adventurous, unconventional, and love learning and curiosity and teaching. So then when I had got to the stage where I had, fulfilled, I suppose I actually ended up getting married, and I married somebody who I worked with, because I suppose I spent all my time in work, and that was inevitable in one way. And I never got the Jeep, actually, but I did get a nice sports car at one stage. So that was a bit of an adventure and discovery as well. And I had, I suppose I had started to lecture, which was I thought that that was, that was funny, that I had kind of ticked off those bucket lists. And then I suppose when I was asked to, when I had written the course and had lectured for a long while, number of years, I had been involved with Griffith College, and I had been working professionally, and minding my two children as well. Very, very busy time. I had been studying training and education and had done postgraduate in that. I was asked to become director of a new design course for the first time it was going to be in Ireland, and from my time in studying, I realized, and through the lectures, that I had a real aptitude for study, for inquiry, for deep thought, and for writing, and for succinct writing. And it was kind of unusual because graphic designers, and maybe it's more practical, it's less academic, so it was an area that I hadn't actually looked into myself before. And so it was a huge honor to be asked to do that. But the other aspect of myself that I haven't talked about, and that people don't really talk about, is the aspect that kind of the thread that runs through your life in your inner world. And I had always, from when I was very young, I had a deep questioning about reality. My first thought was a quite profound thought, I suppose. And the thinking that I'm talking about now is really just the thought that I kind of came into this world with, and that I'm just now finding my voice to be able to speak about. And I suppose that was a thread, like a golden thread, that ran throughout my whole life. And you would say it was a guide that I listened to all the time, and my life has been very chaotic in a lot of ways, in my family life. And even though I did well professionally and stuff, there was a lot of trials and tribulations and changes, and moving house a number of times, my family and my parents breaking up, and there was a lot of turbulence, and I moved countries, and I moved different relationships, and so there was a huge amount of turbulence in my life, as well as this kind of very kind of focused and guided attachment to the kind of I suppose insight, or an inner sight, inner feeling guidance. So when I got to that point in my life, and there was a massive opportunity open to me, I actually had to look and listen again and say, because during that time I really experienced a very profound guidance within myself. I knew that it was like there was a kind of an inner calmness and a presence that was within me during that time. And don't forget, I had two children, I had a busy house, I was working with my husband in our own graphic design business. I was lecturing three different to graphic design or design principles across three different type of classes, and I was doing a postgraduate. I was really, really extremely busy, but yet there was this kind of calm contentedness that was with me all the time, as if I was being brought through this process, and it was trying to show me something, and it was trying to open my mind. It was trying to show me aspects of myself that I didn't understand that I had, you know, and it was leading me in a direction I can understand now that was going to benefit me in the future, even though I thought I was on a pathway to, you know, teaching or whatever. But this was opening up a larger consciousness. So I got to that point and I had to listen again. And the voice was saying, no, that's not it. You're not, you're not, the choice was you go into an external PhD where I would have ended up, doing a master's PhD. I would have ended up like a doctorate in design and lecturing and teaching design and writing papers and academically, and which would have been beautiful and lovely and, gorgeous and suited my disposition. But no, there was a different feeling, there was a different direction that I needed to take. And it's funny because I called it my internal PhD, which I have written in the Clear Republic. And this just simplified it down to the internal PhD. I reclaimed my soul from extremity, contemporary religious monastery, attic office to kitchen sink, the sweet serenity of domesticity. And it was, I suppose, a calling into simplicity. And it was a calling into an introspection and in an internal PhD. And, I suppose, how do you qualify that in the world? It's difficult, isn't it? How do you qualify an internal journey, in the world? It's not something that you can get a qualification for. But the experiences and the revelations and the insights and the close communion with the fabric of life itself changes somebody on a depth that is beyond comprehension to most people. And it opens up a world that is more than mysterious, it's just, it's beyond most people's understanding of what our reality is. And so I suppose my writing comes from that place. And I suppose as I started to write, I didn't realize that I was what we would call mystical poet, as I kind of tried to explain the relationship and the close relationship that I have with reality. So for a qualification and why I'm doing this, it's a calling, and it's as a traditional word that people have used in ancient times and traditionally within religion. But I think we all have callings. We have callings, and life is a calling into our own truth. So it takes many shapes and forms. And for me, I just listened to the direction that I had to take. And I suppose that's usually takes an unconventional form, because convention is going by the rules. Being unconventional is not obeying the rules, but obeying the direction that your inner soul and truth and heart are taking you in. And for me, I suppose maybe I'm, revolutionary and radical and declare a republic, a free state of mind is very much on that tone. I do not take direction from outside of me. There's no one that will direct me, only what the direction that I get from the creative director, from that internal person, that internal presence, so that is my qualification. you know. So whether, I suppose, when you're talking about teaching around spirituality, you need to, what's really important is to find a teacher that you resonate with. And I suppose every teacher has a different quality and a different feeling and a different kind of flavor, and a different type of way of expressing themselves, you know. So, you know, even in my quest, like I've come across so many different teachers, and some, you know, they just hit the nail on the head for you at that particular time, or they are someone that you come back to again and again. You might go away from, and then you come back and say, no, you know, because I suppose when you're on that quest, you know, there are so many different levels of awareness. And when you're, you know, you're dealing with an old version of yourself and a new version of yourself, and the old version of yourself kind of tends to see life from that old perspective, even though you're getting, you know, your updated version of yourself as well. So what you'll find is that there's certain people that you, as you become more and more educated in that area, you become more discerning of the quality and the intention of the teachers, and where they've come from, and what is their true story, and what level of embodiment they have in themselves. You know, it's not so much even what they say, it's but how it makes you feel, you know, and is there that connection, you know, between you. And that is so important. So, you know, I'm making these lectures, and, you know, hopefully it'll resonate with somebody, you know. And so a quest of self-discovery and a quest of self-love and self-empowerment. What is that? Well, like I've mirrored to you in my story, it's really a quest for who you are and your true identity. You know, I've been in the business of creating identities for 25 years, you know, and, you know, our world is really kind of orchestrated around this kind of, you know, identity making and narrative making, you know, and, you know, a lot of our suffering is attached to the identities that we create within ourselves, that we attach ourselves to. And when that identity is attacked, we feel it, we feel attacked, we feel defensive, we feel you know, that's a battle. Like, it's you feel that because it's an identity that is attached to maybe an outside illusion that you have of yourself. So the self-discovery is coming back to your home and back to yourself, and it's deepening and deepening and deepening and deepening that relationship that you have with yourself, which is a relationship. And when you get to that closeness of yourself and life, it is, you know, that there's no two, you become one, and you become one with life, and you become an active participant in an active contemplation. So you're acting from your truth. So there's no, your meditation and your life become one. You don't sit in meditation anymore. Your life is a meditation. So that's the difference, you know. That's the journey of self-discovery, and that when you're acting from that place of pure, your pure truth, and it is life's pure truth, because life is evolving through you, and you are trying to push the boundaries of life itself in your incarnation. So, you know, your advancement in that quest and that of self-discovery is advancing humanity and life, and because humanity is at the very cusp of life itself, it's pushing life on. And it is also, so, you know, it's either pushing it on or it's destroying it. So you decide to make that choice. You decide to be conscious or unconscious, and that is a very, very important choice to make. And I suppose that is the gold that I'm talking about, because when we're mining for gold, we're mining for that truth within each individual. So when you find that purpose, that gold within yourself, that connection to life itself, that, you know, in its extreme, you actually lose the fear of death, because you've already died to a false identity of yourself. And when you come into the true identity of yourself, you realize you're timeless, you are eternal, you are indestructible, you are a constant movement of energy. And that is a very advanced level, and takes time for that to arise in yourself, and it takes practice, and it takes being present over and over and over again, and it never ends. It's a never-ending evolution of yourself, of your deepening of yourself with life. And sometimes when you get to a certain level, that becomes an action rather than a seated meditation, you know. And I think, where are we now, and why, and who is this for? This is for everyone to make a choice, but not everybody will be ready yet. Not everybody will be ready to want to move in this direction. Not everyone, and it's been a journey for myself to realize that, because when you get to a certain stage, it seems so simple, so unbelievably simple, just the most simplest thing in the world. Yet we seem to make it so complicated. And, you know, I you know, from the deepest experiences that I've had, you know, and having to come back from that, and to kind of, like a butterfly, you know, that transition from, you know, you dissolve completely, and then you come back to the world, and you come back to, it takes a long time to even to come and to embody and become grounded in where you are and what you have to do. And part of that is realizing that some people just aren't ready, you know, and it might take them a long time to be ready, you know, but we can't wait for that. So people who are ready to kind of become self-aware and become the life force in the world that we need at the moment. That's who I'm looking for. So, you know, there's the rainbow warrior, the warriors of possibility, the ones who can see that there is a possibility for a new beginning and a new start to their own life, and that have kind of become disillusioned, you know, with their lives, disillusioned, you know, with society at the moment, disillusioned with, you know, through maybe, you know, I've seen mental health issues, sometimes it happens, or through disaster or personal loss. But there has to be a breaking down of the ego. The ego has to be broken down. And this is like our outer shell, where we just see life from an individual perspective. And spirituality is about, you know, seeing life as a whole, as a collective. So you don't see life as just me, and you see life as we. We are life. We are everything in life is life itself, and it has its own intelligence. And you become curious of that intelligence, and you become in symphony with that, in harmony with it, in relationship with it, in fluidity with it. And you become like music, or like water, or like are the most beautiful, flowing, adaptive, creative, spontaneous, illumined, creator, and uplifter, and regenerator of life. So it's like a healthy cell, so you need to make that choice. That's a personal choice. And people who have been drawn into this space are ready for that, I would imagine. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here. So I talked for a long time, and I don't know whether I should keep going, or have you had enough? I mean, you can take a break. And I suppose what I'd like to say is also, what I'm not, I suppose. I'm not perfect by any means. I'm not. I'm constantly evolving myself. I'm always studying. I'm devoted to studying. I'm devoted to improving my understanding of myself, trying to see my own shadows, my own patterns, my own shadows, my own actions that aren't quite in line with where I should be, and I'm definitely going to learn from this process. As being a lecturer myself in design, it's not until you start teaching that you really start learning. So I'm devoted to that. And my intention, I suppose, I was looking over the notes I had written a long time ago around, like as if a process was starting to come into mind around my own retreat. And I just this morning found this piece, and it kind of encapsulated, I suppose, maybe my feelings of why I'm here and why I'm doing this. And I can see it in the Rainbow Warrior, and I just thought I'd read it to you. It says, "The tears roll over the tops of the great dam, holding back the ever swollen love of you." And that is really how I feel in the depths. And that is, I suppose, very much what this image says, that the tears roll over the tops of the great dam, holding back the ever swollen love of you. So the way I see it is that we're all one love, and then the separation that we have between each other is the only thing that divides us. So I hope to be able to guide you on this, and I'll do my best on this journey of self-discovery together. The pledge that I would give to you, another piece that I found in my writing, and I just thought, I had talked a little bit about purity, and this is the process of self-discovery, is a purification process. And I found this piece that I had written, and I just thought it was perfect for a pledge. And it's called, it talks of pure listening. And there's 3 elements to it: pure water, pure sound, and pure love. Pure water is not mixed or adulterated with any other substances or matter. Pure sound is perfectly in tune with a clear tone. And pure love is the motivation of life itself. So that's my pledge to you, and I will do my best to hold that pure listening in our dealings together. And I hope that we become in communion with each other through that. Thank you. And I'll see you very soon again. Bye.